It is finally, once again, a UFC fight week. It has been too long. After 6 long weeks of no UFC, we are back. This is huge. This is a massive time for the sport because not only is this the return of the UFC after their annual long holiday break, whatever you want to call it, but we are actually entering into a whole new era of the sport. This is the very first Paramount numbered event, a whole new way to watch UFC. People with Paramount subscriptions will have access to every single kind of form of UFC content, every card, every fight, the content, everything. And it's going to be cheap now with like the subscription model, this and that. And yeah, the UFC is coming in with this card. We're back to fight weeks, back to seeing press conferences, this, that. I'm so excited over the course of this week. It's going to be fun. And yeah, we're finally going to be able to watch a UFC card again. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of new, splashes the UFC will make in terms of like broadcasting and the production and just the way this entire thing's going to feel now that it's on a whole new platform and we're no longer in the pay-per-view model era and no longer have to go on crappy streams, none of that, bro. All you got to do is just cop a subscription on Paramount and you're golden, So, yeah, this is big. This really is big. We're finally here. First ever Paramount numbered event. We got back-to-back numbered events, actually. This card and UFC Australia literally the week after. So the UFC is trying to come in very strong. But again, you see the two individuals on this screen right here, Paddy and Justin. Do both of these guys necessarily deserve to be here? No. We truly believe that Arnold should be on this poster right now, but this is what it is. The UFC is putting on what they advertise as the most violent and exciting fighter in their company, the American Justin Gaethje, Justin the Highlight Gaethje, and Paddy Pimblett, Paddy the Baddie, who has quickly risen to become a star in this sport, even though, let's just say, the levels of competition he has faced so far in his UFC career have been extremely mid, and we'll get to that all when I actually break down the fight. But don't get it twisted. The one thing I want to mention, too, is this might be it for Justin Gaethje, guys. This really might be it. Think about it. If he loses, he's never getting another title shot again. This is as close as he's going to get once more to gold. And this might be the final time we could watch Justin the Highlight Gaethje. And as we know, the co-main event, Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison, fell off the card. The second title fight, the undisputed title fight, which some people were kind of confused. How is the UFC putting an interim title over undisputed gold? Helwani was very pissed about that. But personally, for me, like I said, I didn't really care so much that fight got canceled. So honestly, yeah, I'm not too mad at it that Harrison and Nunes fell off the card, to be honest. So here we go. First ever Paramount card. I'm ready to break it down, each and every single fight. It's a pretty deep card. And yeah, this is going to be this is going to be sick. Let's just say that when we finally get to Saturday night. So we're going to start, of course, with the early prelims. And don't mind me, I'm going to try to kind of skip through this. Kind of don't give a damn about this fight. Adam Fugue versus Ty Miller. Don't really know much about these fighters. Cameron Sutherland versus Ricky Turcios. Yeah, I'm going to skip this bullshit also. All right, Josh Hokit versus Denzel Friedman. Okay? So Josh Hokit, of course, made a splash on the Contender Series. Very it's clear that he's trying to lean more on his personality to kind of make himself stand out, which has really worked. I don't know, he kind of has this Hulk Hogan persona. He put on an American do-rag and sunglasses in his press conference and saying a bunch of crazy things, I guess, trying to be that Colby Covington, that Sean Strickland, that kind of guy that just says some crazy outlandish stuff. So Josh Hokit won, I think, in his debut. I mean, has he even fought yet? Yeah, he fought once back in November versus Jimenez. And that was a KO TKO within the first round. So great start for Hokit's career. I think Hokit was also the one that called out Walter Walker. So that could be an interesting fight down the line. So, an entertaining heavyweight with a little bit of personality. He's taking on Denzel Friedman. Apparently this guy used to be in the army, used to be kind of some kind of soldier. He also won his debut. So both guys are going to meet each other in a pretty big spot here. Early prelims of the very first Paramount card. You could already tell that the UFC is trying to lean on Josh Hokit, with, the kind of splash he's made with his personality to go out there, get another big finish, start to grow his name out a little more. I think that's what the UFC is trying to do here. They're leaning more towards Josh Hokett. That's just kind of the way I feel the fight is designed. But Denzel Freeman, I mean, this guy looks like, I don't even know, like he barely even looks like a UFC fighter, but he won his debut. But I'm going to have to go with Josh Hokett here. I definitely feel like the UFC is trying to push him. I feel like he's that kind of guy that they're pushing. So next up on the card, an absolute legend, but like old head in the game, Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Alexander Hernandez, I think in his last fight, he KO'd Ferreira. He also beat Chase Hooper, who I did not see coming. Like, he's had 3 fights so far in the UFC. No, not 3, actually. Let's load more. But yeah, Damon Jackson. I mean, his most notable wins are his last 2. And he KO'd both Hooper and Ferreira. And he's taken on Michael Johnson, who's an absolute slugger. He's been in the UFC forever, the menace. He's definitely a fun, entertaining old head to watch. I put him in the same category as Kevin Holland and King Green, but he doesn't fight as consistently. But yeah, he had a very back and forth fight with Zell Huber in which he actually won. So he really defied the odds there and kind of he's actually on a 3-fight win streak. And Johnson also had a crazy KO back in December in UFC Tampa versus this guy, Azat Tar. So he had a very violent knockout on that card. That was a crazy card, by the way. And back in the day, I remember he had like a pretty big high-profile fight. Who was it versus? Was it versus Dustin Poirier? He's fought Josh Emmett. This is going all the way back to 2018. Oh, right. He fought Justin Gaethje. Him and Justin Gaethje had a crazy fight. He even fought Khabib Nurmagomedov at one point. Poirier. So at one point, he was fighting the upper levels of competition. And yeah, crazy. So Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. I expect this to be a pretty good fight. But I'm going to go with, as much as Michael Johnson, is on the little win streak, he's been sending back some of the younger guys. Like, I didn't really see him beating Zell Huber, but like he beat Zell Huber by decision. I think Alexander Hernandez has got something going here, and he's going to catch him. I think Michael Johnson is going to get caught by Alexander Hernandez, but it should be a good brawl. Then finishing it off with the early prelims, you got Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson is known as the prospect killer. His last fight was a very underdog win versus Loner Kavanaugh. He also beat he lost to Ramazan Tamarov, but Charles Johnson, he even beat Van back in the day. So Charles Johnson has been known as a prospect killer. He's sending back all of this young talent right now. And he's taking on Alex Perez. So two of the older flyweights that have lost to all of the higher level guys, but kind of just float around in the rankings. If I had to say which person comes out of this one, I'd like to lean towards Charles Johnson. I just haven't seen anything special from Alex Perez. But to be fair, his last 2 fights were versus more elite flyweights like Almabayev and Tatsuto Taira. Mokaev. Only guy's really beaten it. He KO'd Nicola. That guy sucks. Pantoja, Figueiredo. He's never beaten anyone super high level. So, yeah, 2 guys that float around the rankings. But I'm going to go with Charles Johnson on the early prelims. Next up, Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. Modestas Bukauskas has had a little bit of a run here himself, and Nikita Krylov has had a little bit of a downfall. He took a large layoff, a large break. It was in 2023 that he beat Ryan Spann until when he came back, and then he took 2 fights not too far away from each other. He took on Reyes in April in Miami. Reyes knocked him out in literally the first round, and then he got knocked out again versus Guskov in the first round. So Krylov has completely fallen off a cliff after his 3-fight win streak versus guys like Gustafsson, Volkan Ozdemir, Nikita Krylov. So he's taken 2 straight round 1 KOs to dangerous guys like Reyes and Bogdan Guskov. But is Bukauskas as dangerous? Not necessarily, but he's been doing really well. Everyone's been beating Sarkera, and then he fought Ethan Kudalaba and Paul Craig, so not the best competition that he's beaten. But yeah, I think Modestas Bukauskas is the safer pick to pick here. But Nikita Krylov could also be live to win, honestly. maybe. Um, Honestly, whatever. This should be a fun way to open up the prelims. I'm not too excited about this fight, so to say. But Modestas Bukauskas has some momentum. So whatever. Nikita Krell versus Bukauskas. Ateba Gautier versus Andre Pulayev. Ateba Gautier, one of the rare bred like fighters in this new up and coming like generation of middleweight, an absolute monster. This guy is like baby Ngannou. He has been so far tearing through every single guy he's faced in just brutal and violent finishes. But to be fair, they've been throwing in basically like scrubs, bums, NPC fighters that they're feeding to him just to kind of just showcase and knock out. But it's just vicious in the way he's been doing it. Like what he did to Medina was crazy. Like that was and that was his first fight and to burst on the scene. He's only like 22 years old or something like that, and he's huge. I mean, look at this guy, the silent assassin. His last fight was back in 320 versus Vines. He was supposed to fight Ozzy Diaz. And then Ozzy Diaz pulled out, so then they fed him to this guy Vines for like a one-fight contract. And Gautier went in there, and it was just one-sided traffic. Like, Gautier was just hunting down, waiting. You already knew, like, it was just a matter of time before he found the shot. And then he barely even, like, it even looked like he landed that harshly on Vines, but he brutally, like, just, like, was elbowing him in the side of the head and sent Vines on the floor. Like, the power on this guy, the speed. Gautier is one of the most dangerous up-and-coming middleweights right now, and he's only in his 4th UFC fight. But again, they're feeding him another like nobody in Andre Pulayev, who I think had like, I guess, a nice fit KO in his very first fight. Actually, he lost his first fight, but he KO'd Klein. So by all means, I expect Gautier to finish Pulayev here, just like he's been doing. Maybe Pulayev survives the first round, but I doubt it. Like, Gautier is probably one of the largest favorites, and it's obvious the UFC is once again putting him on a big spot here on the very first Paramount card, so he could showcase. Right now, there's only 3 fights in the prelims. I expect that to change. There's got to be at least 4, I would feel like. But Gautier versus Pulayev, you got to be going with Gautier. And we'll really see how he continues to progress in his UFC career. He's still very early on. He's still very young. The UFC is still taking their time with building him up clearly. But he's definitely going to be someone to look out for as he continues to grow. And I expect him to just put on another extremely violent finish versus Andre Pulayev this weekend. Just the way he's been doing it, man. This guy is something different. Ateba Gautier. Now, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo. When I first saw this fight announced, I'm like, okay, Umar's playing it right. Almarab's going for his 4th title defense at Pyrion, which obviously he lost now. So the bantamweight division is wide open once again. And Umar, he beat Mario Batista back in October. Very straightforward, decisive decision win over a guy like Mario Batista. And that was a good bounce back after coming off the loss versus Merab. Obviously, Umar was 18-0, lost to Merab, bounced back nicely versus Mario Batista. And I don't know anyone that could confidently pick Deiveson Figueiredo on the parlays this weekend. You got to go with Umar, of course. I expect Umar to get another very, very straightforward, probably decision. He's not the most exciting fighter, clearly. He's not been really finishing guys, but he definitely tries to mix it up with striking on the feet and wrestling. I'm sure he's worked on his cardio since the Merab fight. And this is just great activity from Umar to hop right back in there and take on another fight versus Deiveson Figueiredo, who bounced back versus a win versus Montel Jackson. He kind of got his ass kicked by Corey Sandhagen and his knee popped. He's a flyweight legend. He was a flyweight champion, but he's on the dipping end of his career. He's older now. He had a good first couple fights at bantamweight, beating guys like Corey Garbrandt and Chito Vera. But now Deiveson Figueiredo, you're taking on a guy like Umar, who's basically, I think, just right up there with Peter Yan and Merab. And I was even saying that Umar could be the only guy to maybe beat Merab in a rematch. But how wrong was I? Because Peter Yan, of course, is now the new champion. And like I said, the bantamweight division is now wide open. After that incredible 5-round war, I think an Umar versus Peter Yan fight would be insane. It would be so fun to watch. Because by no means do we expect now Umar to just bully through Peter Yan. Because my MMA math, if Merab went through Umar like that and Peter Yan was able to outdog Merab, then Peter Yan and Umar is a very interesting fight. I think on any given day, Umar could beat anyone in this division, clearly. Of course, being part of the Khabib camp. Say what you want about Dagestanis, but yeah, Umar, this is great activity from him. Surely, after a win this weekend, which I'm one of my, probably everyone's most confident picks on this card, one of them is going to be Umar. When he gets his masterclass decision win versus Figueiredo, he's going to be next in the queue once again for a title shot. But you're just going to have to watch because it's classic when they have O Malley beat Song Yadong. They're just going to put in O Malley again to rematch Peter Yan. That's the in the UFC's eyes, that's the bigger fight. It's the popularity fight. And as we know, the UFC is putting more fights on like that in this new deal. Look at Lopez versus Volk. Like that's a fight they're putting on next weekend. So yeah, I'm picking Umar. Umar's resume is not bad. Now he's starting to stack up better names because a lot of people's arguments when he was going to that title shot was who has he fought? His biggest name to that date was Corey Sanhagen. So yeah, I'm going with Umar. Again, this is a pretty deep card when you have Umar Nurmagomedov on the prelims. Excuse me. Now we go into the main card. As you can see, Rosa Namajunas versus Natalia Silva has taken a spot now in the main card because Nunes and Harrison pulled out. If it were up to me, obviously I would put this fight in the main card over that one, but I get it. The UFC wants to have at least one women's fight in the main card to represent. Gene Silva versus Arnold Allen. Right, Gene Silva, of course, took his first UFC loss to Diego Lopez. And Gene Silva was putting it on Diego Lopez in that fight. Gene Silva, he was he was finding his flow state, to be honest, in that sequence before, Lopez, of course, caught him with the spinning elbow and just left Gene Silva looking unrecognizable on the floor in a bloody mess. His coach got all pissed at him. Gene Silva tried fighting Lopez right after the fight was called. He was so upset. But in that sequence, it was a crazy fight. It was a barn burner fight. Gene Silva and Lopez were throwing. And it looked like Gene Silva was finally finding a little bit of a rhythm. It looked like he was outstriking Lopez a little more in the second round. And then, of course, Lopez caught him. But I still think there's so much potential with Gene Silva. And I think that definitely with a matchup like Arnold Allen, this is the matchup for him to bounce back, just like his brother Carlos Prates, who has now come on 2 straight wins after the loss. Right now, all other 3 fighting nerds are coming off losses, right? Baralio, Ruffy, now Silva. So Silva is taking on Arnold Allen, who we have not seen in a very long time. Arnold Allen is one of the fighters with the longest layoffs. We didn't see him since UFC 304. And he's coming back. So, to be honest, and I kind of watched a little bit of the Arnold Allen Gigi Kaze fight. I don't remember exactly how it went. But I know that Arnold Allen is primarily a striker on the feet. He's going to look to slug it out with Silva. And I'm going to rock with Silva to catch him. I'm going to rock with Silva to put Arnold Allen out. I think these guys are going to throw some haymakers at each other. Silva needs to learn to be a little more patient. The fighting nerds are very talented and unique with their timing. But I think Gene Silva got a little bit too... The reason why he got caught like that was because he got a little too ahead of himself, Sometimes you need to get aggressive like that, but I think still that early on into the fight with Lopez, he could have been a little more cautious, a little more patient. But his emotions, his emotional, personality allowed him to kind of, get too much in there. But again, Gene Silva, one of the more entertaining personalities on the roster, right? He, with the barking, one of my favorite moments of last year was literally when he took out Bryce Mitchell, just completely dog walked him and submitted him. I loved it. I loved that moment. And of course, before that, he had that crazy KO with Melsik Bagdasarian, just emoting. Gene Silva has been put on a little bit of a hold right now, but he was on his way to superstardom if he continued that trajectory. But he could get right back on that track with a win versus Arnold Allen. And yeah, I'm gonna go with Gene Silva to catch Arnold Allen. This is gonna be an entertaining fight for sure. Also, Gene Silva will do some barking in his face. Arnold Allen just gonna be standing there like not sure what to do with himself because, I guess he's like a little awkward like that. I don't know. But this is a fun barn burner fight to open up the prelims. Wow, bro. It's great to be talking about UFC again and actually have the fight card this weekend. I guess I could talk very briefly about this, but Rose Namajunas, Thug Nasty, coming in there versus Natalia Silva. When did she fight last? Was that on Atlanta? Yeah, it was on Atlanta. Rose Namajunas is one of the more notable fighters in the game. She had her entire beef with her entire thing with Zhang Wei Li. She's fought a lot of the who's in the women's divisions, but again, I don't hold so strongly in terms of opinion on the women's divisions. Natalie Silva, whatever, they both come out wins. Yeah, I'm gonna go Natalie Silva. I don't even know, guys. I don't care about the women's fights. I don't pay attention. I can't really give you an educated answer on the women's fights. I'm sorry, but yeah. Now we damn well know that this fight is gonna end in the first round. There's no way it goes into a second round. Waldo Cortes Acosta versus Derrick Lewis. Waldo Cortes Acosta, by the way, is right now cementing himself as a certified legend in the heavyweight division, an absolute BMF in the heavyweight division. He's like the heavyweight version of Josh Van. Much earlier on in his UFC career, it was unheard of, just kind of like an apex fighter. But in the last year, he has fought 5 or 6 times, just been absolutely getting active out there and putting on a win streak versus some of the bigger names in this weak heavyweight division, though. But that's because the heavyweight division is wide open. He beat Despain right before Despain got canceled off the roster. Span, Acosta, Spivak, lost to Pavlovich in Shanghai, but then stepped right back in there and took on Delija. Famously, right after Tom Aspinall got eye poked and had to pull out of the fight, Acosta got eye poked by Delija and still managed to finish the fight and finished Delija in round 1 with KO. Then what really puts Cortes Acosta on the trajectory to now be on this fight card versus a guy like Derrick Lewis is to fight Gaziyev on 2 days' notice. They called him in to fly into Qatar from wherever he was and take on Shamil Gaziev, who we thought is, of course, one of the more also dangerous up-and-coming heavyweight prospect / new contender fighters. Gaziev was on a win streak himself, and he looked like a menace too, and Cortes Acosta went in the first round, clipped Gaziev. So Waldo Cortes Acosta has been clipping guys left and right with quick hands, a lot of power, and who also does that? None other than Derrick Lewis, the Black Beast, one of the most puzzling and interesting characters on the roster, but he's a legend. He's been in the UFC forever. And this is Derrick Lewis's final, I think it's safe to say, final run at potentially being in a heavyweight title fight once again in his career. He's had plenty of chances. He's fought a lot of the who's. I did not expect him to win in his last fight versus Taliesin Teixeira in Nashville. But Derrick Lewis did it. I think he even pretended like he got eye poked or something. I don't know. He was covering his eye and then quickly sent a shot back at Taliesin Teixeira, clipped him, bro, in the first round. Derrick Lewis, never what is it? He has a statistic for the most knockouts in the heavyweight division's history. Almeida, he lost to Almeida, but then he beat his last 2 guys. He's fought everyone that this division really has offer, except for Tom Aspinall. He fought Gane, Blades. Did he fight Ngannou? No, I guess not. But yeah, Derrick Lewis. People love Derrick Lewis. He's one of the more popular big names in the heavyweight division. He doesn't fight as often anymore, but yeah, this is a pretty sick heavyweight fight to have on this card, and it's gonna definitely be. You don't want to blink in this fight. It's going to end somewhat in the first round in a finish. These guys are going to be throwing crazy haymakers. I'm so excited for this one, bro. Cortes Acosta. And dude, Cortes Acosta, if he gets a win here, if he clips Derrick Lewis, he's one fight away from a title shot, honestly. Super excited for that fight. Now we got, if you are who you say you are, superstar Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. In the co-main event, Sean O'Malley is bumped up to a co-main event when he was supposed to be the featured fight. Yeah, Sean O'Malley, is saying that this might be the last year we could ever see him if he loses again to Song Yadong. And yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know, if I were Sean O'Malley, like, it's kind of deflating to have been like pretty much like thrown around by Merab Dvalishvili for two straight fights. But before that, I guess O'Malley technically was like undefeated. Like, of course, he like always said like that his loss versus Chito Vera didn't really count because he got injured, which I would kind of agree to that. The UFC definitely put him up the ladder fast. He was getting KO after KO, round 3 KO, round 3, round 1, and then he had Jan, of course, KO'd Sterling in Boston to get the belt, had his, kind of like layup title defense versus Chito Vera, and then lost two straight fights to Merab. Of course, I thought that the second fight versus Merab was undeserved, but here comes Sean O'Malley. Pretty winnable matchup. Not pretty winnable, but I'm saying it's a very winnable matchup for him. Like, he could bounce back, and he needs to bounce back. This is the way to do it on a co-main event, first ever Paramount card, of the first card of the year, January. All eyes on you, Sean O'Malley, to get it done and clip Song Yadong, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Sean O'Malley will get it done. Song Yadong's a talented fighter. He's really good at just kind of like hovering around in these rankings. His last win, though, was a very weird win versus Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo couldn't continue because of the fight, because of the eye poke. Before that, he fought Jan, which, of course, that loss doesn't age as badly because Jan is now he's one of the most skilled fighters in the world and a champion. Before that, he put on 2 straight wins, lost to Sanhagen. Song Yadong's a talented bantamweight, and I know this is going to be a fun striking matchup. And Song Yadong's very live to win here, but I'm going to have to go on the side of Sean O'Malley. I just don't agree with probably what the UFC is going to do. Like, I think the UFC, if Sean O'Malley wins this, they're going to probably push him to get, once again, another title shot now versus Peter Yan in the rematch because of how maybe controversial their first fight was. And then as soon as Sean O'Malley gets a win, Sean O'Malley's back again. He has a win. Once again, he's regained, all the hype and the traction. We could put him right back in there, but I don't agree with that. I think that if Sean O'Malley wins this, he's got to put on one more versus either like Umar or Sanhagen. Of course, it would be sick if we could see that O'Malley-Sanhagen fight. It's like every like MMA hardcore fans, like one of their dream fights. That's just across the board a dream fight for most people. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Sean O'Malley to catch Song Yadong, or maybe get a decision win. But either way, I'm thinking Sean O'Malley. I'm gonna give it to Sean O'Malley, whether by finish or decision. Sean O'Malley to get it done. Now we step into the main card fight, the main event, lightweight interim title bout between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. Now, before we get into both these guys, I just want to say that like Topuria, it was recently shown that like somebody on Twitter or something asked him when Topuria plans on coming back, because of course he's got the whole thing with his wife going on, which big dubs for Topuria, by the way. It seemed like he had a very good time at court. He came out of the court like smiling, like he's going to get to see his daughter again. I think Topuria is going to win this case. I really, truly believe, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a big Topuria fan and a bias and whatever, I'm glazing, but I truly believe that like all she's after is like extorting and money, of course, like typical Miami girl kind of vibes. Like, and yeah, like Topuria, I feel like he does have sufficient evidence and the kind of stuff to back it up that like what she's saying is complete BS. And I think like by the end of this, he's going to come out, catch a dub at the court case, come back to fight in the UFC, and just it will be even more insane to his story. After going through all this like out of the cage kind of drama and seriousness. But it's a shame that he's not fighting on this card. If this all didn't happen, he probably would be fighting Paddy Pimblett on this card. But he's saying he's probably going to return in either April or June and take the winner of this fight. Obviously, the UFC is probably very, very like heavily favoring Paddy Pimblett to want to win this fight. So then he has a belt over his shoulder, even if it's a weird like interim title. So then they can have an interim versus undisputed kind of fight with Topuria, build that up even more because of their beef. But Paddy Pimblett actually was pretty respectful when it came to talking about Topuria's little issues. Pimblett was like, I hope he gets that sorted out. Family's everything. So respect to Pimblett for that. But obviously we know the history, and like, sure, it would be a super high level entertaining fight. But again, where does Armand come into play in all of this? Like, and then Dana White kind of confirmed that like Armand didn't get this shot because of accumulation, missing out on UFC 311. And then he was headbutting and Hooker and like all these things to like make excuses to not have Armand fight in this position when he just ran through Hooker. And I do kind of agree with Armand that the UFC does not want to put him in there because they feel like he's going to kill away the money fight that they want to make between Pimblett and Topuria, because Armand's the most dangerous challenge to Topuria. And I definitely think Armand beats Paddy. So for like the UFC's purposes, they're putting together this fight. Gaethje kind of denies that he really gave the UFC kind of an ultimatum, that was more his manager. But no, he was literally saying in interviews, like, I'm not going to continue to fight anymore if it's not a UFC title for me next. But I guess he was happy enough that he got an interim title. Like, I don't know if that's anything to be proud about, Justin, like, but whatever. Like, he gets to be the main event. He gets to fight for the interim title. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I think Justin, this will be his last fight. I don't see any point in him continuing to fight if he loses this one, because what else is he fighting for? His last fight was supposed to be versus Dan Hooker. Instead, he got the decision win over Rafael Fiziev. Of course, Gaethje is one of the most beloved fighters because he's just one of the most entertaining. He's always willing to throw. Right before that, we had one of those iconic fights in UFC history when he threw down with Max Holloway, lost the fight, but respect him for putting that on and pointing down and throwing with Holloway in the last 10 seconds, but then getting put out. The only time that Gaethje's ever got knocked out in his career. Before that, he had the crazy fight with Poirier, in which he KO'd Poirier. He had a crazy fight with Chandler. That was one of the loudest fights. He lost to Oliveira, though. He's had his multiple cracks at UFC Gold. He won, I think, the interim title off Ferguson, and then fought Khabib, Oliveira. Gaethje's been around. He has quite the resume. He's an entertaining, violent fighter. And I think this fight could be closer than people think. I think right now we're all on kind of the side of like Paddy Pimblett's going to run through him and maul him. He did do that to Michael Chandler. But again, the biggest thing we could say about Paddy is like the levels of competition he's faced so far in his UFC career. All old heads. Tony Ferguson on like a 7-fight losing streak at the time. Not prime or peaked Tony Ferguson anymore. An old veteran, old head, King Green, that he submitted and slept. And then he ran through Michael Chandler, who has not aged well at all as a fighter. And by the way, Michael Chandler might be down bad because he's not getting that Conor McGregor fight at the White House. But yeah, Paddy Pimblett. I'll give it to him if he wins this fight. Like Gaethje, I'm not going to try to put Gaethje in the same class as these other old heads, but he is on the dipping end of his career too. He's also like kind of older. He's not like, and I think he knows it's coming. He knows that Paddy's going to try to take him down. He knows he's going to try to put him on the ground and wrestle with him. The question is if Gaethje's going to be able to get back up and if he's going to be able to kind of like defend that a little bit, because what every UFC like analyst is going to say is like Gaethje's wrestling is suspect. It's not the best. So I feel like I'm rambling on a lot about this fight, but yeah, Paddy Pimblett and Gaethje, we just got to take this fight for what it is. And yeah, Paddy Pimblett, I'm going to have to take Paddy Pimblett to beat Justin Gaethje. But if Gaethje does win, right, then I guess Topuria and him will fight. Maybe the UFC then would put that on the White House. Because they said if Gaethje wins, they have other plans for him. So yeah, guys, I'm going to go with Paddy to take on Justin, to beat Justin and get this interim title. And then he's going to move on to probably fight Topuria in the big fight. So that's it, guys. Yo, UFC 324 this weekend. We are finally back. It is finally, once again, a UFC fight week. Week of fights. Just to re-summarize my picks. I got O Malley, Pimblett. I got Cortes. Oh, I didn't even pick for this fight. Who do I think is going to win? Ooh. I'm going to go, you know what? Crazy pick. I might have to go with Derrick Lewis. I might have to go with Derrick Lewis to catch Acosta. I know most people might favor Acosta. I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis. So, O'Malley, Pimblett, Lewis. Don't really care about this fight. I'm going to go with Gene Silva, Umar, Gautier, go Bukowskis. And then I'll get a bunch of these fights. Don't really have strong opinions on them, but whatever. It's a deep card. It's a fun card. I can't wait. Let's do it. Until next time.